Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured, why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch it so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 1, Episode 2 of FX and Hulu's Kindred, entitled Sabina. I thought it was Sabina, but I'm pretty sure they called her Sabina in the episode, but whatever. Sabina, however you pronounce it. But the title refers to a slave that we see in this episode. She's meant to help Kevin change clothes, which he turns away, but she's ultimately sold to the doctor that helps Rufus, since she has some sort of foot issue. We don't know what it is, but we see her feet are tied up. She really can't walk very well. She's sold to this doctor because I guess Tom can't afford to pay, and this doctor, who is of course interested in medicine and science, would have some interest in this woman's foot issue. But before I move on, I kind of want to pose this question to you guys. Why was this episode named after her, after Sabina? I'm going to call her Sabina. Sabina just don't feel right. I'm going to call her Sabina. But, you know, Sabina's role within this episode was entirely irrelevant to the episode as a whole. You know, if she becomes important later, you could name that episode after her. But in this video, it's like, in this episode, it's like, okay, we get introduced to this character and it's like, okay, here she is. She's got this foot thing. She gets sold. And then that's it. And I'm like, well, that seems like that seems like a strange decision to name the episode after that, because that makes me feel like she's the focus and she's very clearly not. Now, this could be an introduction to her and then later she'll be a focus, but like I said, why not name the episode where she's the focus after her? But anyway, you know, so you guys showed up and showed out. I said in the first video that if the first video got a decent amount of plays, I will cover all 8 episodes. You said challenge accepted. Obviously, I don't have a ton of plays on episode 1, but I have enough plays to justify, after 24 hours, continue to do this. If I can get 8 episodes that do whatever episode 1 does, I'll be satisfied with that. I'll be more than satisfied. So this is how this is gonna play out. So I've decided how I'm gonna handle how I want to cover this show. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna structure the videos kind of similar to that first one, except I'm gonna give whatever general thoughts I have about the episode first, like right away. But then, like, I think the bulk of the video, I'm gonna have these 2 sections where I'm gonna talk about what we learned, where that's gonna mainly cover like the plot stuff. Like, okay, we learned this, and it's because, and then we'll talk about that aspect of the plot. Then I'll close with questions and thoughts, like I did in the end of the first video. Questions are gonna be like questions that are kind of like left dangling at the end of the episode, and then thoughts is gonna be like random shit that I found interesting, funny, stupid, whatever the case may be. So, I think I actually want to start by posing another question to you guys, but this one, I don't want to say it's a touchy subject, but I wonder how you guys feel about this. And this is something that I noticed it in episode 1 a little bit, but I noticed it more in this episode, and I feel like this is going to persist throughout the season. So in this episode, we see Kevin and Dana in 1815 together. Obviously, a big aspect of the show is going to be how these two people, one white and one black, acclimate themselves to this time period, which is interesting enough as it is, but acclimating yourself to this time period when you're coming from a place where you have full knowledge of already what's going to be going on. You know, you don't get too many time travels that end up in slavery times, because time travel is looked at as like, hey, this is fun. Let's go somewhere we want to go. No one's be like, hey, let's go back to a plantation in 1815. No one's going to do that with time travel. So, but since they're put here, that's where they're going to be. And it feels like a lot of what we're going to, I think, take away from this show, we're really going to appreciate, is modern day individuals moving within this world with the knowledge of kind of like, not even the knowledge of what 1815 was like, but the confidence that black people have in 2022. Like, you're not, like, the shit that was happening in 1815 doesn't happen today, and that gives us a measure of confidence. And then I think with this show, going back to 1815, I think it's interesting to kind of pose the question of the way black people move in 2022, or in 2016 as far as the show is concerned. Do you want to risk moving like that in 1815? And the reason I say that, so Kevin seems, I think, appropriately scared for this scenario. Like, even as a white man who's probably okay in 1815, he's like, yo, this is scary. We need to get out of here. Dana, on the other hand, I think seems like unjustifiably comfortable. Like, when they first arrive, she tells them, we have to act like it's real. The last episode ended with you almost getting raped and having a black eye to show for it. It's fucking real. Like, you don't have to act like it's real. It's real, and you are currently sporting the shiner to prove it. And then, when Tom and his doctor are talking about how to treat Rufus, she interjects herself into the conversation. A black woman can't interject herself into two white men's conversation in 2022. I don't know why she thought she'd be able to get away with that in 1815. And again, just yesterday, within the timeline of this show, you almost got raped and got a black eye. Why are you acting like getting drawn and quartered is off the table? Like, that's what kind of fucks with me here, is like, if you put yourself in Dana's shoes, or I put myself in Dana's shoes, and I go back to 1815 being the same person that I am now, there's gonna be a measure of, I think, misplaced confidence. Because I'm gonna be acting like the world is the same. Like, I'm gonna wanna be telling, somebody who talks to me crazy, yo, shut the fuck up, for I'd like, doing something. But then all of a sudden now I got 30 white men on me who are hanging me or dragging me behind a horse. So it's like, I feel like, well, let me keep talking. So, I never stopped talking. I will say this about that scene, though, the one where she interrupts the doctor. The way the doctor got upset took me all the way the fuck out. My man said, "Negress, I don't know who the fuck you think you talking to. I don't know why your black ass is interrupting this white ass conversation, Negress." And man, I fucking lost it. I ain't never heard nobody say Negress in a video, in a movie, TV, in real life. I've never heard Negress, but I mean, I'm inserting that shit in my lexicon, I promise you that. But she later tells Rufus, she's like, well, your daddy ain't the boss of me, or some shit. Like, I have the quote. What did she say? Oh, yeah, well, your daddy doesn't tell me what to do. And it's like, Rufus's daddy doesn't tell you what to do if this is 2016. You could be like, yo, fuck you, Rufus's daddy. Like, or whatever. In 1815, Rufus's dad does tell you what to do. Because if you don't do what he says, it's gonna go real fucking left. And I don't, like, it just kind of takes me out of the episode because it feels so wildly implausible. Like, why would any slave master and or his wife take this much shit from a black woman who just showed up on their plantation? And when she interjected herself into the doctor and Tom's convo, like, I braced myself for the slap. I'm like, ugh. And so I don't know. I feel like Dana should be far more careful and calculating, but instead she feels kind of like implausibly reckless. And I don't know. I'm like, what do you guys think about it? Because I don't know. I feel like I might be a little bit harsh in taking that viewpoint. Well, I'm not taking that viewpoint. That's just how I feel. But, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, I do think there is something that the show and probably the book, which like I said in episode 1, video 1, I haven't read. I think that there might be something that the author is trying to convey in Dana's behavior, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I just want to pose that to you guys and let me know what you guys think about that. So we also meet a guy named Charles Brodus, and he's Tom's neighbor who has 100-acre lot right next to him. He also must be an ancestor of Snoop Dogg. I don't know if anybody's gonna get that joke, but he must be. But I can't help but wonder, almost like, are like the writers interjected like Charles Brodus, like it's so similar to Calvin. Okay, the book is from the 70s, so I'm just gonna throw that out. The book is from 1979, it's before Snoop was even a thing. That can't be it. But I thought that was funny. I'm like, and you'll understand when I get into a theory that I have, why I think that's particularly funny. So in the scene where Kevin and Dana arrive at the plantation, I don't know about you guys, let me know, but I feel like I sensed a little bit more than casual friendship. Like the way like Tom grasped Charles' shoulders, like, please don't go, Charles. I don't know, it made me wonder if Tom might be willing to do a little bit more to get that land off of him. So let's talk about what we learned. So I'm gonna run off some of the things we learned, talk about that stuff, talk about what I think about it, and get into some questions, and then we'll wrap up. So first thing, we learned that time is passing differently in both places. When Dana disappeared in front of Kevin in episode 1, we find out in this episode, she was only gone for a few seconds for him. He says like less than a minute. But for her, she was in 1815 for hours. Then also, when Dana returned, what was only a day for her before she goes back was months in 1815. So we know time don't pass the same. We also learned that Dana can bring Kevin back in time with her, obviously if they're holding, touching, grasping, whatever each other. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Rufus got in a near-death situation while Kevin and Dana was fucking, and now they just appeared in 1815 woods? I'm sorry. I need to refocus. There was a lot of funny shit that happened in this episode that I'm already kind of in a goofy mood about it, but this ain't that kind of show, but do they kind of fuck around and make it feel like that kind of show sometimes? Yeah. But we'll get to that later too. So what else? Oh, so we also answered one of the questions I had last week. See, habit. Last video, which was yesterday. I posed a question of whether or not it was the same woman in 1815 that was Dana's mother. Like, is that the actual same woman? Is she still alive? What happened with the car crash? I even posed the question of like, were the bodies found? And then Dana asked her aunt all those same questions that I posed in my episode 1 video prior to seeing episode 2. And we learned that they never did find the body. So it seems like the car accident that Olivia died in seems to have been caused by her disappearing from behind the wheel. So that's an interesting bit of information. We learned that Rufus can see Dana in 2016, right before he loses consciousness in one of his many near-death events. In this episode, he only meets with some serious danger once, but I still stand by not going to that well too often, if at all anymore. But he tells Dana that he saw Kevin grabbing her arm, which was what was happening, to pull her out of her house right before they got transported. And another thing we learned is that Tom had a first wife who died. And Kevin says he has someone who died too. And Kevin did so much lying in this episode. I don't know if that's true or if that's another lie. But I'm wondering if, like, immediately I kind of took it as a lie, but I'm wondering if, like, there's some truth to that. And because I feel like it could help flesh out Kevin's story a little bit more, or why you write a character like Kevin into a show like this. Like, Kevin needs to be more than just like here for the ride. Like, he needs to really be tied into this somehow. Maybe he did lose someone. So let's see, moving on to questions. There's been a big focus on Dana's mom, but her father has very rarely been discussed. Do you think he really died in that accident? And I'm not trying to suggest that he didn't, but I think it's unlikely that he survived that accident. He probably did die. But the way he's never mentioned is just really conspicuous to me. And isn't that how they always do us black fathers? Like, we end up around. But I mean, like, it just seems like if they just talked about it more, I wouldn't even think that he might be alive. But the fact that there's such a strong focus on the mother, but they told us that both were in the car at the same time, it just makes me wonder if the father is maybe not even necessarily alive, but if there's just some sort of something to be revealed about him later. And if Dana can bring Kevin to the past by holding on to him, does it not seem possible, likely, that she will leave him there? Like, how can they orchestrate him holding on to her when it's time for her to go back, since they don't know what triggers her going back? Like, it seems like, well, in episode 1, every time she went back, she thought she was about to die, just like Rufus. Like, unless you can manufacture that, well, I don't know how you manufacture fright, but not real fright. Like, I think I'm gonna die, but I know I'm not gonna die. I don't know how you manufacture that, but unless you can do that, like, that feeling is random. They can't plan for that. That could happen while Kevin's taking a shit. Like I feel like there's a strong possibility Kevin's gonna get left in 815 with his 1815 with his bricked iPhone. So a couple of thoughts to close. Like I said, this episode was very unintentionally funny, and one of the things I wanted to read to you guys was the beginning of the description of the episode in Hulu. It says, "A nosy neighbor puts the wrong kind of spotlight on our heroes." Our heroes? They're just two bums traveling through time. Not the fucking Justice League. Like, what the fuck? Our heroes. Speaking of the neighbors, we only see the neighbor once in this episode, but she notices the scratch on Kevin's neck, and then she hangs around and eavesdrops, and she knows something is up. She hears them talking about the cat, and Kevin knows that she knows because she sees a post that he makes in this neighborhood app, and I don't know how this is gonna play out. I'm not incredibly interested. I'm a little interested, but like, I don't know how this is gonna play out. But you definitely know that neighbor is gonna do something she ain't got no business doing. And the funny part about it is, she has, based on what she has seen, she has every reason to be concerned. Like, but we're team Dana and Kevin, so we don't give a fuck about her. Take your nosy ass home. Side note, I hate the fucking Nextdoor app. Why is it it's just for like nosiness, gossip, and bad jokes? Like, why is it a bad joke thing? Is that what old people do? I feel like it's an old person app. And also, mind you, I'm an old person. Like, I'm basically an old person. I'm gonna be 41 in 5 weeks. I'm like, who am I to call other people old? But I had trouble getting my mind. This is my next thought. I had trouble getting my mind off of the people in 1815, how they gotta be looking at Dana wearing jeans and going like, what are those? like jeans weren't invented until like 1870 something. I looked it up. Like, so people in 1815, I feel like, they got the pants that look like Game of Thrones pants. They fucking tie at the waist and shit. Like, where is she popping up with jeans? I feel like they're looking at her with the jeans on like, oh my goodness, what is this devil wearing? You bald-headed demon. Kevin looks like, my next thought, he looks like Jason Segel, but kind of sounds like Keanu Reeves, and it's super fucking distracting. And whenever he's fabricating one of these explanations in this episode for whatever's going on, it almost comes off comical. Like I was saying earlier, and I don't know, I don't really care for that. Like, that's the tonal version of mixing oil and water. I don't need any form of comedy in my slavery. Like, I don't. Speaking of going back to the doctor, I hate that the doctor was coughing that much. He coughs in his hand. He offers his hand anyway. Like, yeah, why would you shake the hand of anybody who coughed into their hand? But you a fucking doctor and you coughed into your hand? Man, fuck out of here. I hate that doctor. Actually, I take it back. I don't hate the doctor, because my last thought was something else. Oh, make sure it's the last one. It's the last one. Was something else I thought was really funny. When Tom offered Sabina as payment for Rufus's treatment, he's like, I know you a man of science, and I got a slave here with some fucked up feet, and you might want to study her. And the doctor was like, my guy, say more. And I'm like, say more? I'm like, like, are the writers like trying to be modern, or am I just like reading too much into that? Like, was he meant to say less? And he was like, let's do the opposite of say less, and we'll do say more, like tell me more. I don't know if that was a coincidence or if they were trying to be funny, but he said say more, and I bust out laughing. So we had like the say more. We had We had the negress. Like, man, there was a lot of funny shit in this episode. And unintentionally funny, but not in a bad way. Like, oh, that was so bad that I laughed. It's just like, man, I don't know. Negress is funny to me. So that's all I got for episode 2. Let me know what you thought about what I asked about the episode title and how you feel about the confidence that Dana is showing in 1815. That, for me, it feels a little reckless and implausible, but I have an idea of what they could be going for. But I want to know what you guys think as well, and I'll talk about that in a future episode, probably the next one for video 3. And I will see you guys probably right after this one. So till then, peace.